Why in the world does being cheated on hurt so much? People often like to reduce infidelity to just sexual jealousy or the pain of knowing that your partner was intimate with someone else. And that is definitely a part of it. And I don't think that should be understated. But I don't think that picture by itself explains the intense feelings that people who are betrayed go through. Infidelity can affect your sense of safety, your identity, how you view reality, how you understand your relationship to the truth. It affects your relationship to your own family, your relationship to their family, it affects how you think about the future, your ability to trust your judgment, all at the same time. And this is why people who are otherwise very strong and competent and successful people can be reduced to just confusion and shame and uncertainty at the drop of a hat as soon as they discover that they've been cheated on. The part of why this is all happening is that human beings are social creatures. We've never really been meant to just live in this brute isolation. If you want to think of it historically, like belonging to a family or a tribe was directly connected to our survival. And just because we live in a modern world, it doesn't mean that our nervous system doesn't still believe to some extent that our closest attachments are a major source of our protection and stability still. And your romantic partner is the person that you sleep next to, you raise children with, share finances with, and expect to help you in the face of illness or aging or loss. And so when that person betrays you, it is not just about the affair. It's that your brain gets scrambled because the person who is now this massive threat in your mind used to be this person that you felt the most safe with. And your body will respond as if something life-threatening is happening, even if you know logically that you're not physically in danger. That's why there can still be those physical responses, though, of panic, shaking, nausea, loss of appetite, or just an intense need to regain control. This isn't about being jealous about physical intimacy. It's about the loss of safety, belonging, and protection that family is supposed to represent. And also, on top of that, betrayal threatens some of the most important things in your life. For most people, love, family, home, routine, like these are some of the things that just make life feel meaningful and stable. And who you choose to be with influences where you live, how you spend your days, your finances, your social circle, your parenting, the future that you're planning for. And infidelity places all of those things into question. So if you care about stability, well, now you have no clue what you're going to be doing. You're trying to work through, should I reconcile? Should I divorce? And if so, what do those two branches look like? Ordinary routines that used to be very pleasant, like waking up next to your partner or sharing a meal with them, now are painful, like it just brings back the horrible memories. Or even at the level of identity, like if you view yourself as someone who really prioritizes family and now your family is ruptured, it can shake you in terms of what you really believe about the world, your faith, and yourself. And then on top of that, betrayal also affects just your confidence and your ability to understand and grasp reality or just the truth. This happens most obviously in cases of gaslighting. When you had suspicions that things were off, you brought them up, and they didn't just deny it, but they convinced you that there was something wrong in your perception of reality, that you're just weak, you're just jealous, you're overthinking. And so you start to embody some of those things because, yeah, maybe I am these things. And it really does mess with your ability to be like, okay, when am I overreacting or not? And then even if there isn't a lot of gaslighting, there's still just the fact that there are different memories from the past, moments where you thought were reality A and it turned out they were reality B. And so the fact that you have to question your own memories and rethink things, it feels like I just don't even know what's real anymore. On top of that, the affair can also appear to confirm some of your deepest wounds. Infidelity rarely lands on a completely blank emotional canvas. Most people have a canvas that already carries some insecurities, childhood wounds, painful relationship experiences, or just negative beliefs about themselves. You might already fear that you're not attractive or lovable or interesting or worthy. And you maybe grew up feeling abandoned, replaced, or ignored. And the affair can feel like this definitive proof that those fears weren't just fears, but they're the truth. It's like going up to that canvas, finding those ugly parts, and then just circling them with this giant red paint and drawing an arrow to it, and then carrying that canvas through the streets and saying, everybody, look at this shame. And that's one of the main reasons why people can experience very similar betrayals on the surface, but their response can be very different. And that's why when people ask me in the comments of some of my videos, now what? It's very difficult to give one specific recommendation. What exactly for you is being triggered underneath the surface is so different from person to person. So sometimes the affair doesn't create these negative beliefs, but it's just giving them powerful new evidence to the point where they feel undeniably and painfully true. On top of this, your brain becomes hypervigilant after infidelity. Hypervigilance is basically just the idea that you're not wanting to be blindsided again. You're wanting to make sure that you don't get caught off guard again. And so you start to become intensely aware of things like changes in your partner's voice, inconsistencies, like minor inconsistencies in what they say. It can take the form of obsessively checking their location, checking through their phone, rereading old messages, reviewing financial records, mentally comparing different explanations they've given on different days with one another. It's just constant monitoring, analyzing, remembering, preparing for another discovery. Your brain is doing this to try to protect you from another betrayal, but it just takes a lot of energy day to day. On top of this, the betrayal, just by its very nature, tends to make you want to focus on them to try to understand them, partly due to the hypervigilance I just described, when in reality, you likely need to be focused on your own recovery. So while you're monitoring what they're doing and analyzing what they're feeling and wondering whether they missed the affair partner or looking for signs of whether or not they're remorseful, your emotional state starts to depend upon theirs. If they're doing X, you feel Y. If they're doing A, you feel B. You might feel this urgent need to keep them close at all times, even while another party wants nothing to do with them, of course. And this can create further codependency or further trauma bonds, which can make it only harder to leave if that ends up being the right decision. And regardless of whether you stay or reconcile, this is the time when you need to start developing independence, self-trust, and just the ability to regulate yourself day to day more now than any other time. And then on top of this, you're often, because of all these other things, in a high stress state, which can affect your sleep and can affect just day-to-day habits, which just make everything else worse. So if you're struggling with sleep, you're going to have less energy, and then all the other things I've already described will be harder to manage day to day. And then on top of that, there is no obvious or painless path forward. A lot of painful events at least come with a pretty clear next step. Like, let's say that you get fired from your job. As painful as that is, at least you know pretty quickly, like, okay, I can either file for unemployment, or I can talk to my network to see if anybody that I know personally is hiring, or I can just go out and start applying for jobs. Like, it's a pretty clear set of options for a path forward. With infidelity, it doesn't give you that clarity right away. You often don't know whether to stay, separate temporarily, or file for divorce. And even if you do know that initial direction, like let's say that you know you want to leave, you still have to figure out what leaving means in practical terms. You might have to contact a divorce attorney, divide finances, find somewhere to live, explain the situation to children, learn how to interact with someone that you had hoped would be your forever partner. These things are all new territory for almost every person that goes through it. So even if you know you want to leave, it still leaves a lot of questions unanswered. Same thing for if you want to stay. Figuring out what accountability looks like, what information you do or don't need, what boundaries are appropriate, whether forgiveness is possible. Those things are also often unexplored territories until this happens. So every option is both unclear and difficult. And then on top of that, in light of the fact that it's so difficult to figure out what to do next, everybody else has such simple black and white advice. You can scroll through a bunch of videos and see one person say that staying means that you have no self-respect. Then you swipe. Next video tells you that leaving means you didn't fight for your family. Next video says once a cheater, always a cheater. Next video shows someone using their faith to pressure someone to forgive. You may be told by one person to get every possible detail, while someone else tells you that asking questions will only make things worse. Friends and family will give advice really based more on their own histories and fears than on actually listening to what you've had to say. Online forums and Facebook groups get even more extreme because outrage and disaster stories tend to get the most attention. And so you're already doubting your judgment. You already have a very difficult choice to make. And you're getting conflicting advice. So support should look like helping you think clearly and identifying what you actually think. It should not be about pressuring you into making someone else's preferred decision. And then on top of that, I'll give you a bonus one as well. One other really confusing part about infidelity is that the person that you are grieving might still be sitting across from you or visiting you each day or just over in the other room. You might cycle between loving them, wanting them, being furious at them, questioning whether you even know who they are, all within the same hour. You might have moments that feel really normal, followed by reminders that are very visceral of what happened. Your mind is trying to reconcile all these other things we talked about at once, and it can do this shifting thing where it will shift from one mode to the next. And ultimately, it's just because you still don't know. You still don't know what you think of them. You still don't know what path you're going to take. You still don't know what the best decision is. And so it's like your brain goes back and forth between trying on these two extreme options. And so all of this is why it's very ignorant to just say you should be able to get over this super quickly and easily. Being cheated on somehow touches and affects nearly every system, both internal and external, that we normally lean on to feel safe. It threatens your romantic partner, it threatens family, threatens identity, threatens routine, threatens self-worth, threatens how you view reality, threatens your future, threatens your past, threatens old wounds, puts your nervous system on alert, deprives you of sleep, forces you to make complicated decisions, gives you conflicting advice on those decisions, and probably more than that. And so if you feel trapped or confused in all of this, that is not just because you're overreacting. This really is hard to work through. But I do also want to clarify that the depth of the pain is not an indication that it is permanent. These things are all possible to work through. It just shows how pervasive the effect was. It touched on a lot of different areas of your life, but each of those areas are addressable. Sometimes figuring out the right order to work on them for you is a challenge. You might think you need to work on this one area, but that area feels stuck until you actually work on this area first. Like, it can be a little overwhelming. But with the right help, the right support, right amount of time, it's definitely something you can navigate, and it doesn't have to take years and years.